Hi everyone, and welcome back to this, which is the second in our series of brief webinars on the subject of extended producer responsibility, and in particular the recyclability assessment requirements. And in this second brief, we're going to clarify what constitutes household packaging so that we can make sure that we're conducting recyclability assessments on all of the packaging that we're supposed to. And we'll be following this brief with an explanation on how to break down the packaging components to ensure that we undertake those recyclability assessments properly. So in our first brief, we covered how large producers are now required to undertake recyclability assessments on every packaging component that is household packaging, that they are required to be reported every 6 months, and that these assessments are required to be completed against the recyclability assessment methodology called the RAM, rating every packaging component as either red, amber or green. And the results of these assessments will affect the disposal fees paid via the modulation process. Now, all organisations will already have been calculating and reporting the quantity of household packaging that they supply. But in order to ensure that we undertake recyclability assessments on every component that is required, we need to ensure that we identify the correct items that are household packaging. So what is household packaging? Well, in broad terms, it's exactly as you would expect. It's everything that's likely to be disposed of into a household bin. So to get more specific, household packaging is essentially all primary packaging and all shipment packaging. So let's clarify those terms. So primary packaging is that around the product to make it a sales unit when it is sold. So for example, for a jar of jam, it's the glass jar, it's the metal lid, and it's the paper label. And for a multi-pack of crisps, it's the individual crisp packets and the bag around the individual packets. Shipment packaging is then any packaging that's added to the primary packaging to facilitate the handling or transport of a product, but which is still being supplied to the consumer. So for example, for goods sold online or by mail order. So this can include cardboard boxes, things like bubble wrap and mail bags. So for example, if you sell a mobile phone directly to a purchaser online, that phone will likely be sealed into its own branded cardboard box and then placed into a mail bag or a further postal box before posting it. And in this example, the primary packaging is the branded phone box and the mail bag is the shipment packaging. However, there are some exceptions to these broad rules. So if primary packaging is supplied to a business or a public institution and it isn't supplied on, then it is unlikely to end up in a domestic bin. Therefore, it's not considered to be household packaging and it's excluded from the requirements to have a recyclability assessment. And by public institution, we mean places like schools, universities, hospitals, doctors, prisons, courts, places like that. Also, if the primary packaging is for a business product, that again is unlikely to be disposed of into a household bin, then that is also excluded. And the same applies to the shipment packaging around the product that is a business product. And by business products, we mean things like a big office style photocopier or other business and essentially non-household equipment. So what isn't household packaging, and therefore the packaging types that don't need recyclability assessments, are basically all other categories of packaging. For completeness, by that we mean secondary packaging, which is used to group a number of sales units at the point of sale and which can be removed without affecting the product's characteristics. So for example, the tray of units that might be used to group things together on a supermarket shelf. These are unlikely to end up in a domestic bin. And then also the tertiary packaging, or otherwise known as transit packaging, and that is that which is used to facilitate handling and transport of a group of sales units or a group of secondary packaged units. So for the example here, we've got a pallet of boxed items. We're talking about the pallet, the shrink wrap, and the boxes if they aren't secondary packaging. Finally, I think it's worth touching on some packaging types that are exempt from the need to have recyclability assessments. So the first is reused packaging. so that which is designed to be used a number of times. The second is packaging that's exported outside of the UK. The third is drinks containers made of PET, plastic, steel or aluminium. And then finally, items that are covered by a deposit return scheme, such as drinks containers covered by the recent deposit return scheme regulations. As you can see, even what appears to be the simple considerations of recyclability assessments aren't necessarily so simple. And it's because of this complexity that we've developed a tool to help organisations to undertake their assessments. We've taken those complex requirements for recyclability assessments and turned them into a very simple, step-by-step, user-friendly process that retains your records and generates the results for you. It also helps you to identify where the recyclability is not scoring so well, so you can see how you can improve on your packaging and how you can reduce your costs. And the tool will also help you to revisit and quickly update your assessments when the changes are made to the RAM or when changes are made to your packaging or your products. The tool also retains the records to back up your assessments, providing a central location of everything that you need to have stored for when staff changes happen. Our tool will do all that for you, and we're offering it very competitively because our mission is to simplify the complexity for everyone's benefit. So thank you all for listening today. I hope you've gained a little bit more clarity on what items recyclability assessments are now required on. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact us and I'll answer them as best I can. Please come back to our page for the next instalment in this series, which will be covering how to determine a packaging component. And please don't hesitate to get in touch if you'd like a demo of our new tool. Have a great day.